You might get the call back in, Chloe.
And you see that red button? I'll be pressing it. I'm busy. Sorry, Scott.
Hello and Kate Míle Fáilte to MudderRucker, the podcast all about Irish women's rugby. Join me, Ailbhe O'Nolan.
And me, Cian O'Mullor.
As we bring you the latest on the Irish women's team, from squad selections to match analysis and everything in between.
If you enjoy the show, be sure to follow, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us to grow.
Now, strap on your scrum cap, get stuck in, and let's talk Irish women's rugby. Welcome to episode 5 of MudderRucker, the only podcast dedicated to Irish women's rugby. Joining us again is Irish International, Munster, and most importantly this week, ULBO's captain Chloe Pearse. Welcome, Chloe.
Thank you. I'm surprised you keep inviting me back, but I'm here anyway.
You're here endlessly until your day's end. Also welcoming Katie O'Dwyer this week, Irish Leinster and Railway Union tighthead. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you very much. As Chloe said, I'm surprised you have me on too.
It's absolutely our pleasure, I can tell you that much. So today we break down the round 4 of the Six Nations as Italy gave France a scare in Parma. England did the predictable against Scotland in Welford Road, and Ireland travelled to Rodney Parade to take on the resurgent Wales. But first we might get to know our fabulous new guest, Katie, if that's okay. Katie, as a Galway woman firmly rooted in the suburbs of Dublin, where did your rugby journey begin?
By mistake, really. I was playing camogie at the time with my college, and it was all very serious. I'd been playing camogie since I was a young one, really. So I fancied a change, and I heard the craic was good with the rugby. Didn't know anything about it, so I was living over in East Wall at the time and had a look at clubs around, and yeah, just ended up walking down the laneway at Railway Union by accident, really, and said I'd pop my head in for a training session, and I haven't left since. So yeah, that's how it started, really.
And was it instant addiction for you, like with most people, or was it something that took a while for you to get embedded in?
I think the off-pitch stuff really was the big draw. Actually, initially, people were just so warm, so welcoming. The craic was great. It was just so much fun. And then the on-pitch stuff obviously kind of was second to that. But yeah, I started playing a bit of twos down Railway. Really enjoyed it. I kind of started playing at 8 really until I figured out where I was going to be put or where I was told I was going. Johnny Cronin obviously had ideas of prop for me. So yeah, I kind of started loose head down a training, he put Lindsay across in tighthead, and we both went, nah, not for me. So we swapped over, and yeah, I was kind of playing tighthead then ever since, and just got to run at twos for a couple of years, and then got into the first team there, and yeah, just kind of went on from there. Yeah.
Seems to be a bit of a habit of 8s moving to prop and props moving to 8 these days. Chloe loved her time at prop, didn't you, Chloe?
Yeah, the next theme of this is why am I invited back, and then Chloe hating prop.
Yeah, we're going to keep running with it if it works.
Yeah, I definitely won't be getting moved to 8 now. I'll be moving up the numbers, yeah, but not the right way.
I'd say it'd be hard to shift Lindsay Peat out of that 8 position. She's moved to that and enjoying it by the looks of it.
Absolutely, yeah. But there's a load of younger ones there now as well, chomping at her heels. So it's great competition to have, and they're learning plenty of her as well. But keeping her on her toes and keeping her fresh, yeah.
I suspect though that Pete is probably the type of person that you could take up tightrope walking and she'd be good at it.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. Once there's no referee involved.
Right, we'll move very quickly into, maybe we'll go to the Italy-France game first, if I can. It was a kind of a funny game, I think. As I was watching it, I was wondering, were the teams in the right jerseys? Italy came out, I know France scored first, but Italy were just unstoppable in that first half. Really, really successful, probably the better side. They had 70% possession in the first half, and French looked pretty ill-disciplined, which is typically more of an Italian kind of approach. Chloe, coming to you first, what did you make of that game?
Yeah, I think Italy would be really disappointed. They had every opportunity to win that game. 3 held up tries, bit of loose kicking. I think they'll probably be frustrated from the ref as well. I thought, like you mentioned, France's ill-discipline. I thought they absolutely lived on the edge. And they should have had, they had foul go to the bin after the high tackle. They definitely should have had 1 or 2 more. France just cynical, leaking penalties. And Italy then unfortunately didn't capitalise on it. You know, they didn't score until Fall was back on the pitch. I thought that was a big moment. They really needed to put a score on the board at that point. And then getting held up 3 times, you know, it's the pet peeve at the moment since that rule change. Like to get held up once, unlucky, but the 3 who got held up, they all went on their own, you know, so it's kind of frustrating to see I'd say as a coach and as a player watching on, of learn from it the first time, and then when they did go wide, they scored a cracking try where they used the forwards, hit the back, and a beautiful sweep, and then a lovely pass out to Duke or to Muto, who just walked it in. So it was frustrating for them. And then France just did France, and then the scoreline at the end didn't really reflect it. You know, 2 poor mistakes, and France win by 2 scores. And I would have loved to have seen Italy kick on. I don't know what it would have done for us on the table, but I was really going for them to get the losing bonus point and the 4-try bonus at the end. And they just, you know, a really poor kick from Medea, and then France, and they score and take shine off the whole game. But Italy were in that game for really strong parts. I'd say they'll watch that and they'll really rule a lot of chances they had.
It's strange to see France twice now in the competition, once against us and once against Italy. Probably not quite lucky to win, but definitely getting a big fright, and the opposition will walk away from that going, oh, what could have been? Katie, did you think that Italy were much improved, or was it France just looking a little bit poor and a little bit ill-disciplined?
I think there's a bit of both in it, to be honest. I think, as you say there, France have been kind of rattled there now twice. They seem slightly unsettled, kind of handling errors here and there, as Chloe said, living on the edge with penalties. I think they had 10 penalties in the first half. So, yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think Italy probably said they'd nothing to lose, go out and give it a lash. So I think they started really strong. And, you know, to be up at half-time for Italy, I'd say they were very, very happy with that position. But just a pity they didn't keep the foot on the throat and keep going. A couple of, you know, errors there, as Chloe said, getting held up, things like that. But yeah, they do look to be improving a little bit. Their maul is kind of slightly better. Looks like there's a bit more power behind it, stuff like that. But yeah, they'll be very disappointed coming away. But also good to see that there's maybe a few gaps in the French armour as well for other teams, for the likes of ourselves, Scotland, Wales, you know, to be able to see those vulnerable areas is great.
Looking ahead to the World Cup, I think, you know, France will probably be aware that they're not quite at their peak going in, and it's probably something the opposition are going to target. Looking at Italy, I thought it was a bit strange they didn't start Rigoni, Stefan or Chinesi. Yeah. You know, quite a strange decision, but without them in the first half, they were incredibly good. I thought them coming off the bench would make a huge impact. Chloe, we didn't really see that, did we?
I thought Chinesi played really well when she came off. I thought she put her body around there. Like I said it last week, I think she's incredible. She's incredibly physical, makes huge hits and huge carries. I just think the momentum of the game kind of swung at that point. You know, Escudero also come off the bench for France, who essentially is fighting for her life now. You know, Menege is back, and Escudero probably is going to be the person sitting the bench, but I thought she came off and she was phenomenal for France, along with a couple of others too. So I think the momentum had just swung at that point. But yeah, like I was shocked to see a couple of those big names not starting, but the subs or the people who started, you know, they really put their name in the hat for next week now and who actually starts. But, you know, do you keep those finishers on the bench because the people who started did such a cracking job? It kind of is a selection headache now, I think.
You talked about the momentum shift there. What is it that shifted that momentum in the game? Was it Italy getting tired, or was it France, you know, switching on in the game?
I think it was a bit of, like, for me, it was the loose kicking from Medea, and then Italy made a couple of mistakes and they just compounded errors. Like, you know, Solari gave away 3 penalties in a row. It was just a killer. And, you know, not to highlight individual people, but that was a killer. 3 penalties in a row. And to be fair, like, Italy got off the hook a bit. Like, Bourgeois has been kicking incredibly well the whole Six Nations. Like, she missed 2 sitters, like very, very easy kicks for a player of, you know, her caliber, and for the kicks she had against us in the penalties. You know, I was really surprised, but I think that's a testament to them being rattled. Like, that's what pressure does. You know, it makes people make mistakes they don't usually make. So Italy probably got off the hook in that sense a little bit to still be in the game. But I thought loose kicking, I thought Medea fell away a little bit. I wasn't happy with some of the kicking she had. And you know, it's France. You kick loosely and they can score from anywhere and someone will pop up. But France scored some cracking tries as well. That first try, that set piece try was beautiful. It was unbelievable, you know. And then just big players kept him in the game. I thought Marine Menage, actually, I thought she was phenomenal at 13 too. Got a couple of turnovers, and then Italy just leaked a couple of penalties, and France did what France do. And I know we're saying, you know, there's chink in the armour, but good teams win when they're not playing well, so they found a way. It's the most important thing.
I think Vernier was back for that game and was probably one of the standouts as well. But the typical standout being Bourdon Sansu, Katie, she was a bit quiet in that game.
Yeah, definitely a bit quieter, all right. But look at, as Chloe says there, I mean, when they're not going well and they're winning, that's always a plus. You know, there's going to be a couple of girls each day who aren't going to be at their best, same with any team, but there's the people around her there as well to keep her going, you know, and to carry the team. They have a great bench there to come on. You know, there's no, I suppose there are very few weak links, and maybe that's the difference as well when you've people like that coming off the bench. Your calibre of player could be, you know, slightly better maybe than the Italian subs coming on. So if there is somebody having a bad day, Sansu's, yeah, quiet, but there's the people around her there on the day to keep it going.
Very good. We might switch to the Ireland game then, which was, again, a strange position for us to be in, where we're very, very comfortable throughout the game. We dominated in pretty much all aspects of the game. But B-Man talked at the end of the match about being a little bit disappointed that we didn't put 50 points on, you know, Wales at home in Newport. Chloe, would you feel the same about that? Do you think it was somewhat disappointing?
Yeah, 100%. I watched the first half yesterday. I was getting on a flight, and then obviously I checked the results when I landed, and I was delighted. 40-14, I thought, unbelievable, brilliant. I got up this morning then and I watched the game. And like that, I just felt I was so deflated but I think that's a positive, because we see the potential of where the team can be, and we're now nitpicking at things because we know how good we can be. Kick the ball, missed touch 3 times. That for me is, like, how many times have we done that this tournament? How many times have we kicked the ball out in the full this tournament? That's really frustrating. We're not fixing those errors. And then to try, the end when the ball is dropped a metre from the line. Look, I've knocked the ball on 2 metres from the line as well. It's so frustrating. It's really, and you know, Stacey doesn't mean to do it, but when you're watching it, you're just, you're fuming, that we didn't score more. So, if Scott said 50 points, I would have said 60 or 70 we should have put on Wales. And that's, look, it is a positive, but it's just about fixing those errors now. You can't keep saying it and not fix them. We have to see growth. We have to start taking those. We have to start hitting touch. We have to start not kicking out in the full. But yeah, it's still a fantastic win. It's a great position to be in, that we're annoyed that we beat a team at home by 26 points. You know, that's brilliant for us to kind of sit here and look at that. But we need to see growth now. We need to fix those errors next week.
Katie, we got in behind the Wales defence a lot in the opening passages. I think we were quite loose in that first probably 20, 30 minutes, looking to move the ball a lot around our backs, but we were quite inaccurate once we got in behind. Was that probably, you know, a lack of practice, or is that what we're seeing from that opening match where we had a lot of inaccuracies, handling errors and issues, you know, moving the ball consistently?
Yeah, that's the frustration, as Chloe mentioned there. You know, it's so small, simple. It's the basics really that are letting us down at times. And when it works, it's really sharp and it looks really, really good. But, you know, the conditions were perfect. It was a dry day, or, you know, you have a good surface. You know, there is no excuse really for that. So that is the frustration. I know there was a couple of changes in that too. Maybe we should be taking that into account, but still, it's basics. I think the inaccuracies will punish us against the bigger teams. When it is good, it's good, but it's those basics. I think, again, as you said, it's happened in previous games as well. You know, even for the first try there, I think we had a really unsteady first 20 minutes. But for Wales's first try, I think we needed to score a try and just to get, you know, settle ourselves and get the ship moving and that. But yeah, I just think that was another costly error. I think we could have settled into it an awful lot more if they hadn't gotten in on, how many minutes was it? 6 minutes in. It's quite unsettling. Yeah, but again, the basics kind of letting us down at times. Now that did improve as the game went on, but those first 20 minutes are so important.
You mentioned there, a few changes. I think what we saw probably was quite a bit of rotation. We had Scuffil-McCabe come in at 9, so she's our third scrum half to start a game. And you bring in at 12 and Siobhan McCarthy at loosehead. How much do you think that is in terms of planning for the World Cup? Is that looking to build that squad depth, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important, especially for the likes of, Siobhan there at prop. Myself and Chloe know how important it is to get game time, and, you can sit on the bench for so long, but you do need time. If you have a big competition coming up like that, you need game time. I thought Siobhan did really well, actually. The scrums looked solid, and not that you would have doubted her, but, she's quite green, I suppose, at the moment in terms of international experience, but I thought she held her own really, really well there. I thought Molly's passing was fast, crisp. I think we've the fastest ruck time in the Six Nations at the moment, or close to it, and Molly was really, really quick around the ruck because Wales were also quite cynical around the ruck too. I think they got away with murder, so she really needed to move that ball quickly, and she did. And great to see Enya in as well. She took over kicking duties for a while as well and pinged 2 over. So yeah, delighted to see her in. But I think that rotation is really important to get girls game time. As I said, there's a big year coming up with the World Cup, so game time is key now. Not to diminish the Six Nations, but it really needs to be used as a platform for that.
Looking at the set piece, you mentioned there, the likes of Siobhan McCarthy coming in at international level as a prop. That must be an incredibly daunting thing to do. Whatever about any position on the pitch, I think being, a prop must be particularly difficult because you're coming up against operators that know exactly what they're doing. They know all the subtleties and the nuances of the scrum, and to go from, club level up to that must be particularly hard. Chloe, what was your experience of playing prop at high level, and, how difficult was it?
I'll be honest, I wouldn't know. I never got put on.
That's my bad.
I wouldn't see the smile coming there.
I couldn't. You wouldn't know. I wouldn't know much about it. But look, that's the problem.
We can cut that and cut to Katie if you want.
No, it is. That's the problem. And unfortunately, this was a forced change, right? And the only reason Siobhan started was because Noddy was out. Let's call a spade here. And it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant that she got to get 60 minutes, and it is so much harder as a younger, not, I wouldn't say younger, I mean younger in international years player to be coming off a bench. It's so much. I think from any team, anyone playing, it is much easier to start even when you're new, because you're in most of the team runs, you're in all the walkthroughs. Whereas if you don't get a lot of time and you're a sub, you barely get swapped in, because obviously the focus is on the starting players. So even for walkthroughs and lineouts, Siobhan would have been in them all, which is brilliant because now she has confidence going into the game. Whereas you go in as a sub, you might, for every 3 reps the starting team gets, subs might get 1. And then unfortunately all the subs get swapped in together, and some people aren't where they usually are. And then it goes tits up, and then it's all the subs' faults. And that's the way it goes. And it's hard. So I think it's brilliant that she got to get such strong game time as a prop or as a starter. And then for Sive as well to come in, because Sive obviously has been travelling reserve for a while. And like that, all it takes is one injury, and we're so heavily reliant on Noddy and on Linda at the moment that we haven't tested that depth. So it was brilliant to be able to do that. So it was super for Siobhan. I was delighted for, she's not even playing prop a year. Her first games were the Interpro, was in a couple of warm-up games. So it's a super trajectory she's had. I know she moved to Dublin, went straight in on I think on a contract, maybe, I'm not too sure, but has immersed herself in it. And the same, and I wasn't that I was surprised. She did really well. I was just nervous for her because of that lack of exposure to, high performance and those high quality scrums. But yeah, as Katie said, completely held her own. It was super to see, and it is good for us to start building out depth. My nervousness is if we lose Linda, what happens? Because we're so reliant on her, and they always have been, right? And she's playing incredibly well. But if we lose Linda, it's one area that I see us struggling. And it's not that Christy's a fantastic player and players coming in behind her. But again, we just play her to death. And I know Christy got 20 minutes, but 20 minutes is tough as well at the end of the game. Like, you need to be starting games. So I'd love to see Christie start against Scotland. I don't know will he do that, but that's a change I would make, because we have to learn to live without people also, just in case. Like, we've lost Erin King already. So you don't know when you're going to need someone.
You might get the call back in, Chloe.
Yeah, and you know, and you see that red button, I'll be pressing it. I'm busy. Sorry, Scott. Take it up with my agent, David.
Keeping with the set piece then, I think, you know, Ireland at times, particularly over the years, have struggled with the line out, but we saw early on some improvement in that. Cian, you've been looking at the line out as a kind of a platform. What have you been seeing?
Yeah, having gone 95% and 94% in the first 2 rounds, it went well, but against England it just didn't click. Ireland only won 11 of 18 on their own throw, so that's about 61% success. Now, England's pressure was immense. They'd stolen 8 lineouts in the tournament by that stage, which is twice as many as any other team. So it was always going to be a challenge, but even so, it's tough when you're trying to build a platform, and we've gone to the lineout for our platform more than any other team in the Six Nations. Then against Wales, it was a notable step back up. 21 wins from 24 throws, so around 88% success. Still a couple of wobbles, but a much better return. Now, tactically, with the Irish line-out, there's a trend. About 75% of Ireland's throws across the tournament have gone to the front of the line-out, which is the highest percentage of all 6 teams. It's been very little going to the tail, just 4 throws in total, none of which have stuck. Though we did have 2 long throws past 15, which were pulled off successfully. So, Chloe, looking at it as a player who knows the space well, what do you make of how Ireland managed that turnaround? And do you think that the focus on front ball is about building confidence, or is it limiting their options too much?
I think it definitely limits us too much, and that's kind of what happened against England. And even I was at the match and I was looking across, and England, we're actually quite a small team. That's part, like, height-wise, we're very small. So, like, when I looked across at England, like, Dara was probably our tallest player, and you had Abby Ward, Alex Matthews and Zoe Allcroft, who were still probably 2 or 3 inches taller than her. So it was rough. Like, it was tough. Like, how do you pick a space when, just unfortunately, even if you pick the right space, if they get up in front of you, they're still going to win the ball. So then you kind of have to add in those couple of trick plays, which we did against England. You know, we went to 1-man lifts at the front, Noddy lifting Erin King twice, which was brilliant. But I actually thought we had more variety in our lineup the other day in terms of jumpers. You know, Wafer was used, Brittany was used, Root was used, Dara was used, Fiona Chute was used, and she come on. I actually think that's what we need to start doing. Obviously, it was highlighted with Lewis and Erin during the week that she has been the go-to person. The problem with going to the front all the time, and obviously we use our maul as such a platform, is typically it's easier to defend because you have the touchline as your friend. Like, we still scored off mauls, but, you know, if you can get that maul at 4 or at 6, it's so hard to defend, especially at the tail. That's what I'd love us to develop. I do think it's a confidence thing. You know, Niamh is a fantastic player. She's fantastic, like, at things. I don't think her throwing is her best attribute. Like, she's done quite well and it's come on loads, but unfortunately her throwing is inconsistent. I think that's why we haven't been able to go to the tail and why we don't have as much confidence in it. And that's why we use a 5-man line out too, to limit defensive options, which is good. Look, it's clever, but it just then hampers you elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Katie, how do you see the balance between safety and ambition in a line-out system like that? And from a team implementation point of view, how hard is it to recover a set piece like that mid-tournament when it's under pressure?
Yeah, look, it's difficult. You've so much, I suppose, access to, everyone has access to video analysis. You're sitting down, you're really scrutinising opposition. You have to throw in different bits and pieces, you know, in that week, in that match week. So whatever they use there at the weekend against Wales, they're going to have to change it up against Scotland. Scotland are going to sit there and analyse to death. So they're going to say, right, well, 75% of the lineouts are going to the front. Let's just defend like hell there. So they will need to put in a couple more options this week against Scotland if they're going to get any sort of benefit out of the lineouts. I agree with Chloe there in terms of our throwing. I don't know if it's confidence or if it's what it is, but when you're coming up against the likes of England and you are looking at height differences and size differences and all that, that's difficult. But I think against Scotland, I think we can be more ambitious without overcomplicating either. I think they tried a trick play there towards the end of the game against Wales, and Was it the right option at the time? I don't know. Hindsight is great, but sometimes you're as well off kind of keeping it simple and at that stage of the game. But yeah, they're definitely going to need to throw in a few more options and not be as predictable going to the front there. I think Dara now has the most line out wins, so she's obviously going to be a target with Erin gone. But yeah, they have other options there. So I think just mix it up now before the weekend and make the most out of it.
You both mentioned Erin King and her injury. Looks like she's not just gone for the end of the Six Nations, she's gone for the World Cup too. A very young player who has come from the Sevens setup and has absolutely thrived in a 15s setup. How big of a loss is she to the team?
Yeah, I think she's a huge loss, and actually people are talking about it during the week an awful lot. It has come up in a lot of conversations about how big of a loss she'll be. She's just tenacious. She's a dog. She's stuck in every ruck. She's one of those really annoying players. And even stature-wise, she's not big, but she's really effective. And I think for her to break through there onto the 15 scene and be that effective that quickly was really, really impressive. And I think they'll miss her desperately. And I hope they can find somebody as good to replace her. But I think it'll be a tough job because I think she's really stood out. And I suppose best wishes to her. You don't want to see that happening to any player, but best wishes to her in her recovery. We don't know the extent of the injury yet, but yeah, it's an awful shame, to be honest, for a player that was really firing on all cylinders for the last couple of months.
She very much was, and it must affect her as a person hugely to suffer an injury like that, particularly when she's playing so well. Chloe, from your experience, what is it like when you lose a player, and how does the team rally around a player when there's a major injury like that?
Yeah, I think it's tough, and she's obviously such a big part of that energy kind of surge the team has. You can see it on the pitch. She kind of drives everyone. I think the best they can do for her is someone take over that mantle. That's the best respect I think they can give to Erin at the moment is, we're going to look after the ship until you're back and ready. I know people have come out speaking about, Scott came out during the week saying she's already talking about how she's going to get better. I'm sure she's that team are a really close group. I'm sure all the girls are looking after her. They're all dropping her texts. I'd say she'll still be in and around camp because she is such, that kind of energizer to the team. But it's rough. It's a World Cup year. You don't want to see, you want the best players playing in the World Cup. That's the reality in it for every team. You wouldn't want France or England to lose world-class players either. And I know it's probably a bit much to say she's world-class at the moment, but she was Breakthrough Player of the Year. And I think she has the potential to be world-class. So to lose her is a big loss to the team. And one that probably once the game started the weekend, we didn't notice because the team played so well. But against bigger teams, I'm sure we will kind of notice her not there. She was most arrivals at rucks, defensively and attackingly for us, won a lot of turnovers and just gave us great go forward. So, look, I'm hoping for miracles. I'm lighting Yankee candles and everything around the house that she makes a miraculous recovery. That's my plan. And that she's going to surprise everyone and be back on the pitch come August. So, yeah, watch this space.
Lighting the fancy ones.
Yeah, the Yankees are out.
Yeah.
Very good. So you mentioned Linda Djougang earlier as well. How crucial she is. She was particularly good on Sunday, I thought. A lot of carries, 2 tries for the good as well. Katie, how good is she as a tight head prop? And is her better game as part of the scrum or in the loose or her defensive game?
I think she's solid in a scrum, yeah, absolutely. And she can play loose and tight. That's the beauty of Linda. She can cover both sides, so she's always an option there. She's really, really solid. She's an athlete, but equally her carrying, she's hard stop, couple of metres out from the line there. I mean, she just casually walked through for a try there on Saturday, nobody touched her, great pass across, skipped a couple of players, Linda she just walked in, It was probably one of the handiest tries she'll ever get, but she's really, really strong ball carrier, and her leg drive is really explosive in contact. She makes meters all the time. She sucks in players, which is great as well. There's always 2 or 3 kind of hanging off her. So yeah, she's really effective. I think definitely scrummaging and attacking player are her strong points there. And then I think she got a latch on her at one stage there. The last stage, it was just her carrying the ball and, you know, another one or two on her. And you're just making meters all the time. And it really puts the defence on the back foot and just kind of opens up the space for players. So yeah, she's very effective. But as mentioned earlier on, if she was to go, we do need to seriously think about backup. Because she is so effective and she's played a lot of minutes. You know, she feels like she's been around forever too.
Another player who's played a lot of minutes this season as well is Aoife Dalton, who is absolutely thriving. I feel like Aoife Dalton has been around for donkey's years now, but she's still so young and really growing into her game. I was also surprised to see how short she is. She's not a big player, but she plays like one. Some of her defensive work is incredible. Did you see her as a standout, Chloe?
Yeah, I think she's class. She's so young, but her defensive reads are unbelievable. And then just her awareness when she's attacking to step inside or outside and pivot through contact and ride the contact and still make meters is phenomenal. You know, like she pirouettes out of things and people are trying to tackle her and she just keeps going. She had a lovely break near it, like in the second half through the middle, and you were just kind of urging her to keep going. But yeah, she's come on loads. You know, and here's the thing, she's keeping out Enya or Eve, who are, you know, top quality players, both like have years on her, maybe not in a 15 standpoint, but like, let's be honest, like Enya is a seasoned international at the moment, and Eve on a 7 stages and has a good few international caps as well. She's the starter. You know, the two girls are fighting for the same jersey. Aoife is the one who's staying at 13, and the two of them will play at 12, and it's just a matter of who's playing with her at the moment. I think she's really important for the defence. I think she's saving us a little bit at times. Like there was once we got done on the outside. I thought Anna McGann and Vicky Kinlan, when she came on, I thought defensively they weren't connecting with her and were kind of shooting up. And part of me is wondering, is it part of our game plan to shoot up and hope that someone covers on the outside, because we do have speed, but I don't think we should. I think we should stay connected and we should trust the system and use the touchline as the next player. But Aoife covers a lot of that. I think if you were to watch her, she probably saves the winger's bacon a couple of times by her defensive work. But yeah, she's really important to the team at the moment. And who plays with her? That's the question.
Cian, do you want to come in there a little bit about that scramble defence that we were seeing?
Yeah, I mean, that moment for me was amazing. Temporarily down a player, Wales make a break through the understaffed midfield. She comes flying back not only to cover, but with a crucial breakdown at the same time. It's a huge hustle play. Undoubtedly saved us a try. And another moment, when Jess Breach nearly scored in the England game. Amy Lee, absolute heroics, forcing her foot into touch. Like, Katie, from your perspective, how would you rate Ireland's scramble defence system overall this tournament? I mean, it's down to both individual and collective effort, and it's a clear system in place. But how hard is it to coach that scramble mindset? Because, you know, when the shape breaks down, it's all about reaction and decision-making under pressure, right?
Yeah, I think one of the notable things in the new setup is work rate. I think they're working really, really hard. I think their rugby knowledge has probably improved as well. So in those moments, the decision making is better, the work rate is better, they probably have each other's backs more, there's more trust there. All of those things put together, it creates this really positive thing, like they're going to get there regardless of who's left or right, but they know that somebody's going to come with them. And you're talking, you know, Amy Lee, as Chloe said earlier on, in the last podcast, who's going to outrun her, you know. So yeah, they're blessed with pace. Like Aoife is a small person, but she's so solid. She's so strong, you know. So yeah, I think there's a lot of elements that have come together to build that trust, number one, and the knowledge and decision making around it has really, really improved as a group in general across the board, not just for the back line, but you know, as forwards as well. I think the work rate is huge there, and they're willing to put the bodies on the line and make it across to make that important tackle.
The pack were really, really effective actually on that game. We saw 6 tries across the board, across 3 players, 2 apiece. Who for you really stood out, Chloe?
Yeah, obviously, look, Aoife Wafer stood out. She 24 carries. She
Heard
was,
her. Sorry.
you know, yeah, I know some. You wouldn't. They're from Wexford. You don't hear from many
Any
people
good?
down there. But yeah, I just thought Darrow was phenomenal again. Like that, her energy is immense. I just wonder where she gets it from. Like that run at the end and gallop through. And again, like I wanted her to score it because it was so worth the try. Like she got off the line out, hit the peel, and then was that like worked her ass to get around that corner and completely outworked the whole Wales pack. That's how the gap was so big. They never folded, but she did. I thought she was excellent. And again, I thought Stacey had a better game than she's had previously. I was really concerned about the England game and her performance, but I thought she kind of redeemed herself a little bit. I thought Molly was superb. I was a big Aoife Riley. I thought she was the starting 9, but I thought Molly's pace of pass and like, as Katie said, and it really annoyed me as watching the game, Wales killed the ball all game. They were so cynical. They were hands in the ruck. Every time the ref was telling them get their hands off it, slowing it down on the try line.
The gate didn't exist for them. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, I thought there should have been 3 or 4 cards given out. I was so frustrated by the refereeing performance, to be really honest. But I thought Molly handled it so well. She was just so quick. So now I'm thinking Molly's the starting 9, so, but that's a great position to be in as well, to have that we've had 3 good 9s play. But I would give Molly another crack next week against Scotland and see how she goes again, because I thought she was super.
I'd agree. I think she handled it very, very well, and she mixed up her game quite a bit. She was a bit of passing off the base, a bit of sniping. She was unpredictable while under a hell of a lot of pressure. Katie, you've played with her for a long time, and she was a wing, and she's only moved to scrum half in the last, I think, 2 seasons or so. She's doing exceptionally well. Is that something that you've seen develop with Railway over time?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with Molly is, she's quick and she's nippy, she's unpredictable, but she's really bloody intelligent. And that's so helpful, obviously, being a 9, but she's she's just sharp. She studies the game. She has a good head in her shoulders in those moments, in those scrappy, frustrating moments when it is the rucks are going to shit. She's a level head. She could have gone cracked there the last day. She wasn't getting any protection, I felt, but she got on with it. She's not losing her head. She's really effective. And that's the thing about her as well. She's unpredictable, and she's not afraid to take a bit of contact as well. She's not afraid to take the ball in if needs be. She's not just shoveling it for the sake of it. So I think all around she is a really, really, really good option. I thought even since we've seen her, getting plenty of game time like that, since that the crispness of her passing and the pace has really improved even further. But I just think, as an all-rounder, she's intelligent, she's quick, and she's good to have on your side. Yeah, so I'd love to see her as an option coming into bigger games towards the end of the year.
We'll briefly drift to the England-Scotland game, because we must. Boring game for a neutral. I found it very difficult to watch. I think maybe we're just at a point where it's so predictable. England are going to do what England do. France will have a big game for them next week, but Scotland this week probably didn't test England very much and going to be well rested going into the game. We saw Claudia MacDonald probably stood out, I think, for England. She's somebody who's had a litany of injuries over the past while, 2 very serious neck injuries, but she came onto the starting team, scored 2 tries, and probably put her hand up there for one of the back 3 positions. Chloe, for you, did she perform enough to give herself a chance in the World Cup?
Yeah, I think hands down she's your starting winger. And I wasn't sure prior to that, but I think she put her name on that jersey. And it wasn't just the try she scored, it was other work she did. Like she's attacks the high ball, which was super. Like even the pass at the end with Ailbhe Dalton away, it was just super. I know it seemed like such a simple thing, like ball bounces to her. Like the presence of mind and the accuracy to get that ball to Ailbhe Dalton for Ailbhe Dalton to score.
Doesn't look.
She doesn't. She just knew she was there. It was super, and the pass was super as well. And the try, like that set piece try she got where she got in and then stepped around someone as well. It was class. I think she'll start. I think Eddie Kildun will start. I think it's a real battle between Jess Breach and Ailbhe Dow for that other jersey when you come to the big games. So I'll be really interested to see what happens now next week. But Claudia, for me, gets that jersey. She has to. And look, Ellie Kildun, no one's going to move her out of 15. I can't see it. So for me, it's just who gets the number 14 jersey. And to be honest, I don't know. I would have said Jess Breach before Saturday, and then Ailbhe Dow scores a worldie. So it's so hard. Imagine having that many options. Must be awful tough.
Oh no!
Which world class player will we play this week?
I thought Claudia McDonald and Ellie Kildun really linked up quite well as well. There was a lot of selfless rugby in there. I think Ellie Kildun was taking the ball on a lot and chipping the ball wide rather than being that playmaker and attacking the line herself. Do you think Ellie Kildun is really the hype woman that she is, or is she being made look good by some weaker sides?
Oh, it's a tough one. I still think she's class. You know, she has just really special moments. Regardless of opposition, you'd love to see her against the likes of, at the moment in her form now, you'd love to see her against maybe the likes of New Zealand. But yeah, I think she's very, very good. And she has those players around her. But naturally, she's an excellent player. And Chloe says there, you know, you've Ailbhe Dow, you've Claude. There's options too. You've Pace. I thought the two of them did really, really well. It was great to see Claude back in after all her injuries. But yeah, Ellie is I think she's world class, and I think regardless of opposition, she has those little moments of brilliance, and she looks like she's enjoying herself as well. You know, that's the thing. She's there for other people too. Like after Ailbhe made that run down the wing, she handed off three, 4 players. Like Ellie was there, but she's not demanding a ball. She's in celebrating. Like Ailbhe could have popped it off her, but she took herself and took her try. But she's in celebrating with her. She's not. They seem quite selfless in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one point in the game where Ailbhe Dow, I think, gave a poor pass to Ellie Kildun, and rather than turning to her and going, I was absolutely in, they were just having a laugh.
Yeah.
It's fun for them. You know, they're playing sides in Six Nations, and it's like they're just going out for a friendly. It's amazing to see. I was quite interested to see Marty Packer coming back into the fray as well, Chloe. She hadn't started at all. She had no minutes coming up to this game. How crucial is she to that? She's past captain. She stepped in as captain again over the weekend. Is she likely to feature much in the World Cup, or do we think that she's probably against big competition?
I think she's under pressure. Look, let's be honest, she's a world-class player. She always has been. I'd say she's a nightmare to play against. I'm not a fan, if I'm really honest. But look, it is what it is. But I think she might be under pressure. It's not looking good for her. I think she didn't do herself justice with Saracens. I watched that final. I didn't think she had a great final that day. And, you know, she was up against people who were like going to be going for a jersey against her, not maybe directly against her, but might shift other things around. You know, Fayanati seems to be a bit of a fan favourite, and Kabea coming in as well. So I think she'll be under pressure. Like, I think Allcroft and Matthews start, definitely. It's just a matter of, will they move Allcroft to the second row? I think that's what might be a determinant factor. But then she's so much experience, I think you still bring her to the World Cup. And does she play the lesser games as such? Like, any game England are in the group stage is going to be a lesser game, really. But, you know, the really lesser games, and does she lead that kind of group? So she's almost like that seconds captain when it comes to a World Cup. I'm sure that's not her plan. She's a highly competitive, highly driven individual who's captained England to 3 or 4 Grand Slams. So I'm sure that's definitely not in her plan, and she'll be edging to get a starting jersey. But the writing on the wall doesn't look like that's the story for her. But who knows? Maybe this is his grand plan. Make her think that she's on the edge and see how she performs, and, you know, a true test of character then.
Okie dokie. I think we'll leave the England chat there. It was a bit of a foregone conclusion. And I think the crunch is going to be a big game. But I can't see England not winning, to be honest. We might move into a bit of lucky dip here.
Okay, here we go. Okay, Katie, I take it you're familiar?
Yeah. Be nice to me here now. Give me a handy one, will you?
There's no handy ones. Go on, so.
They're literally just on the page in front of me here. You pick the number and that's what you get. I'll just literally read out what's on the page. It's much better fun that way. Chloe, I think we'll let you go first this time just to give us an idea of what's going on. So pick a number between 1 and 15.
12.
12. If you could swap lives with any of your teammates for a day, who would you pick and why?
I was going to say Chloe to see what it's like to put up with me, but I'm not going to pick that. Because we know that's definitely going to be a nightmare. Who would I pick? Someone like Alana McInerney. And I just don't know how she goes through life. She is one of the most intelligent people in the world, but she is a fairy. And I wonder sometimes how she gets dressed in the morning. But then she's just the most intelligent person and is incredibly smart. But I also want to kind of see what that's like to live. So yeah, I'm going to go with Alana McInerney.
That's her and a half. Amazing. Okay, Katie, your turn. Number between 1 and 15, 12 is gone.
I'll go for 3.
3. Okay, what is the one piece of kit or gear you absolutely cannot go without on match day?
My undershorts because of my fat thighs and the chafe.
Good job, Rob.
Oh, don't talk to me about the chafe. The chafe is real. I understand. I know your pain. I am 100% with you on that.
Yeah, the cream doesn't do it for me. I need the undershorts.
There isn't enough Vaseline. Before we finish up, one quick question from me. Katie, what player did you most admire when you were growing up or when you were a young player?
Probably Ailbhe Cian. I used to watch her, obviously, in international games and got to play against her a little bit with Belvo and stuff like that. And even just after games, she'd always have a chat with you. She'd always, tell you where you need to improve and what to do and all that. And no more than Fiona Hayes and Fioriti. All of those props were actually really, really lovely. Now they made me cry, obviously, in the middle of games. John Cronin still laughs at me about all the times I've cried playing against UL. But those few players were always really, really good, and they'd either chat to you after games or they'd drop you a message. Just, words of encouragement and words of improvement as well. So yeah, probably Ailbhe and the two Fionas, really.
So for you, who did you most admire growing up?
Growing up, I think when I first came onto the scene, watching the kind of 2013 team, Joy and Claire Malloy were just a joy to watch. Excuse the pun. But yeah, they were just incredible workhorses, athletes, left everything in the jersey. Loved them, still love Joy and what she does and what she represents, and being a trailblazer for women in rugby and now women in refereeing, and what she's done for women in sport. So yeah, I thought she was incredible and continues to be. So I'd say the two girls in the back row, definitely.
Right. A huge thank you again to Chloe for offering her insights, and many thanks to Katie for joining us today. Watch the space for a bonus podcast coming later this week. If you enjoyed our chats, please follow wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for joining us. Keep on rocking.